I am a competitive person. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, I don't know if this is a paradox or whatever you call it, but like, I'm not like a person who's trying to rank up, me like top 500. Like,
Yeah.
I just love having fun with my friends, but I also like grew up playing basketball and I get super competitive, and so like even if I'm just trying to have fun, I want to do the best I can do.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Yeah. No, absolutely. I
I've
don't.
done a little.
No, go ahead.
I
Finish
was
with
gonna
that.
say I've done a little bit of coaching before too, and then I just saw one of your videos, saw you offered it, so thought it'd be a
Sure.
good idea.
Okay. Yeah. Sounds good. Sounds good. Yeah. I mean, I think there's something to be said about like not being the most serious about goals in terms of like rank, but just understanding the game a little better, having some goals to work on, kind of having an idea of like where you could progress if you ever did want to progress. I think there's a lot to be said for that. So, okay.
Yeah,
How long have you been playing Overwatch?
I started on console during lockdown,
Yep.
um, and I play on quote unquote PC. Actually, I play on a Steam Deck, which is a little weird.
Yep.
Probably for the last year.
Okay. 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 And you play tank currently, but
hmm
where has like your journey taken you in terms of like heroes roles over like the last what 3 4 years?
I mean, I've always just liked playing tank. I don't know if that makes me weird or not, but
No, no, no.
I really enjoy tank, and so I kind of started on Ryan on
Mm-hmm.
console,
Mm-hmm.
and he's just always kind of been my favorite, so he's been my go-to. But then there's that period where he was really bad and just not that fun to play, and so I
Sure.
started branching out. I played a lot more Diva.
Yeah.
I recently got into Monkey.
Okay.
Um, I can play some Sigma, like if the comp or the level calls
Sure.
for it and nothing else is working. Or
Sure.
Zarya's kind of in that same camp where I'm like proficient-ish, but I wouldn't say I'm a expert in either of those two.
Got it. Okay. So
But I have a lot of fun with the first three, like
Ryan
Ryan,
Monkey.
Monkey, Diva.
It's a good hero pool. There's like not a lot of situations where I think one of those would be bad. Basically, they're always going to be decent regardless of the map or the enemy comp, and I think that's a good hero pool to have. And also, there's characters have a lot of nuance and a lot of depth, so that's really good to hear. Now, you on PC right now? You said you started console. Are you on PC now?
Well, I'm on my Steam Deck.
Okay, so
Um,
talk to me about like how that Steam Deck works.
so it's like a mini Linux PC, and I have it plugged into like gaming mouse and keyboard
Ah,
and a monitor.
okay, yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
I haven't had much issues with it. It's just probably lower performance than
Sure,
like kind of my
sure,
frame rates and stuff are pretty bad. I'm
sure.
saving up to buy a PC
Got it.
in
Okay.
November, so
Perfect. That's awesome. That's awesome. I'm looking at
yeah.
it right now and I'm like, oh my gosh, that's crazy. Let me actually send you a picture. Does this resemble your setup right now?
See,
I just dropped it in
this might.
Discord.
Oh, there you go. No, I have a full-on monitor, but it's not that far from
Oh,
that. It's
but
basically
it's
that with an actual monitor.
it's extrapolated from there. Okay, okay,
Yeah, yeah,
okay.
yeah.
I see, I see, I see, I see. All right, all right.
Mhm.
Makes sense, makes sense. All right, well, that's cool. What frames do you get? I assume it's like 60 or something, nothing super high.
Yeah, I think 60's what it maxes out on.
Yeah, okay. I mean, you could do worse. Like 60 is fine. Like I would say that it's
Mhm.
not optimal, but it's like you can see what's going on. I played on 60 for years and it was okay. So
Mhm.
okay, so I have a hard time ranking up. I tend to have 50% of games where we dominate, and I go 27-3. 50% of the games, so I feel like I'm walking in mud and I can't make a play. I'd like to play more consistently and rank up with my friends. I actually have a video on this. Let me actually send it to you right now, which is going to talk about it a little bit more in depth than I think we have time for today. I want to be respectful of your time. But basically, the TLDR is 50-50 Overwatch is really an extrapolation of human inconsistency multiplied times 10. So what you're doing is you have your inconsistency, enemy inconsistency, map inconsistency, hero inconsistency, and it just tends to be a little bit like that always in PvP games. Now, what we can do is we can control your consistency with having a good hero pool, understanding how to adjust your play style, setting small goals, improving, playing at the same time and for the same amount every single day, and even things like sleep, right? That will help you to perform consistently. But ultimately, nobody's consistent and don't worry so much about the result of the games. I know that it's hard not to care because even a close loss is fun, right? But a stomp isn't fun for really anybody. But I think like trying to control the outcome just doesn't really work out super well. All you can really do is like, okay, if this game is feeling frustratingly difficult or confusing, do your best to problem solve it just like you would a difficult chess position. Like, I don't know how do I do, okay, to solve the problem. And if you fail, that's okay. You at least had an opportunity to kind of think and learn a little bit and then go to next. So even in that stomp, you're still problem solving. I think what people try to do in stomps is try to win the game or write it off. And I think that that's too extreme. What I would recommend is in a game that's probably going to be a stomp, instead think of it as like, oh, this is an opportunity to practice this, right? It may still be a total stomp, but it's an investment into me being a better player. So if I'm playing Winston and, my team is trolling, they capped on 3 points with 5:20 to go, and we've just lost the first 2 fights in the first point choke, and we're getting stuck. Don't change things necessarily. If you want to play a different tank or want to try something else, that's fine. But even then, you're playing the tank to solve the problem. Like, okay, let's just set small. How can I contribute the most to helping us break this first point choke? And that's it. That's the only goal that you have there. Oh, we won the fight. Well, we only have a minute and a half time bank, so we're still going to lose. But you know what? How can I win this next fight? Like, what's the best thing that I can do to approach? What am I practicing this one? Because the thing is like, I mean, did you ever play sports growing up?
Yeah, I played competitive basketball.
Right. And I think like the trap is to treat those games like those competitive basketball games where like you have to win, like you win or you go home, right? And that's it. But really all competitive is just scrimmaging, because you just scrimmage and you scrimmage and you scrimmage and you scrimmage, and the next day you get up and you scrimmage and you scrimmage. So it's like no one game really matters that much. So there's a freedom for you to practice and try things and to not feel so married to the result. And that takes some of the pressure off, and that can make even those stomps feel a little bit more rewarding, because it's not a waste of time. It's not.
Yeah.
So I know it's harder, but yeah. I think those are my recommendations. And like I said, I did link that video when you get a chance. You can take a look, and that kind of goes a little bit more in detail. But playing 5 to 6 days a week for around 2 to 3 hours per day, is that still the case?
Yeah, it's probably closer on the 5 days. Just because work and stuff has been kind of crazy.
Yep.
But I think that's pretty
yep.
consistent.
Okay, no problem. Okay, sounds good. And then I assume, well, actually, this would be even better. Do you have your career profile pulled up, or can you pull it up?
I can, yes. All right, it's up.
Got it. Can you give me like the hour breakdown, or even send me a screenshot of what your breakdown this season and the last season is in terms of playtime?
I don't know how to do a screenshot on the Steam Deck.
Okay, sure, just read it out.
I played 3 hours on Diva, 2 hours on Reinhardt, 1 hour on Winston, and then just a mix of under an hour for like Zarya, Sigma.
Okay. Is this season? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And then last season?
Last season, I ended up taking kind of a break in the middle of the season in terms of comp. So I played a lot at the end of the season, but it was 4 hours Ryan, 3 hours Diva, 1 hour Winston, and then under an hour for Zarya and Sigma.
Okay, so kind of reflecting your hero pool, right? Like the large percentage leaning into that. I would say that I think the goal for you moving forward would be to try to cut out even those like 5-6% of other characters, to try to channel that into the hero pool you already have. And if you're like, I'm getting really bored of Diva, I want to learn then you could do that. But I encourage you to be a little bit more diligent with those extra percentage of games here and there. Like, oh, I feel like I need to swap, or this isn't working well. That might be an opportunity for you to problem solve, like we talked about earlier, about what do I need to adjust? What do I need to be trying differently? And because even a small percentage, 5-6%, that adds up. Like those are extra games that you could be practicing. And then obviously the major elephant in the room here is that you're getting a decent amount of hours in, but at least on your profile this season and last season, not a lot of competitive hours. So you said you kind of took a break last season. Start with that.
Yeah.
Why?
I was feeling kind of burnt out
Mm-hmm.
in terms of just
Why?
being super competitive. I think it was just the same. So I was actually looking at it. I don't know if this is anything, but like I was looking at it yesterday, and in the last 2 or 3 days, I had I was like it was like 4 days ago. I was looking at my record, and it was just like a loss streak. Like hadn't
Mm-hmm.
like I won like 1 out of 10 or something like that, and it's then I took a day off, and then I went 50-50 the next day, and then the day after that I went on a win streak,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just like that yo-yoing just kind of got a little bit
Mm-hmm.
rough for me, and I just got to a place where I was kind of just like, I'm just gonna play quick play, and I'm just gonna like play characters I don't usually play, and just like kind of get my head out of just trying to be super competitive, um, and try to just have fun
Yeah.
with it again.
Great. Great. Good. 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 I think that's a really excellent mindset to have. I think that obviously I encourage you to not worry as much about the swinging nature of playing the game, but it is important to have fun, right? And so prioritizing you having fun with the game is extremely, it's wise. It's very important you do so. So that's good. I think our goal is going to be, can we make competitive fun for you?
Mm.
Can we make practice fun for you? Is you going in with a specific set of goals and not worrying as much about the outcome? Is that going to make it fun? Because I had similar issues in the first year and a half, 2 years of my playing ranked, until I kind of got over myself and just kind of played the game and didn't worry super as much about my performance or winning, just going in with playing goals, playing the same amount every day. And eventually it wasn't like, oh, I got better at doing my chores. It wasn't really a chore anymore. Like I actually enjoyed just playing solo queue because it was comparative queue times to quick play, and people were trying a little harder, and also, frankly, it's just more gameplay, less queue times because I got to do both attack and defense. I didn't have to just do attack and then the game's over, right? So I felt like the little bit of stakes there added to my experience, and I think like that's, it's not just about practice quality, it's also about fun quality, but it is something that you kind of have to learn to have a good mindset about, because if you don't have a good mindset with ranked, then you are going to get burned out. You are going to be frustrated at the continual failed outcome, right? And that sounds like it's something similar for you. So what I would do is I think that like your priorities are straight, but I encourage you to go back and try again and see if you can fix your mindset in relation to competitive. And if it doesn't work, that's fine. Have fun, and then try again. Like it's there. It's an acquired taste that you just have to have the right mindset for.
And I should say too that it's not necessarily the wins and losses. Like it's like when I was playing competitive basketball, I was always kind of able to separate that. It was
Yes,
more of like I would get really frustrated when I didn't feel like I was doing my best.
yes,
And I
yes.
think that's more of the wall I hit where I was just like I don't feel like I'm playing as well as I can.
Yeah,
I don't necessarily know why or how.
right,
And
right.
so I just wanted to step away and
Yeah,
try to
I get
reset.
that. I get that 100%. And I think that that's that's very normal, right? Like is to be very judgmental to yourself about like, I have a certain level of expectation, and especially if you don't know why. That's the worst part, is ignorance sucks. But again, that's still, it's a different competitive mindset. Like you're not mad at the losing, but you're still upset, and you're upset at yourself. And that's still a distraction, not just from performing well, but it's also a distraction from enjoying the process, right? Like you have to cut yourself some slack. I've coached a lot of players that have taken long breaks or used to be good, didn't play for like a year or two, then came back and have like high expectations for themselves, and they just don't perform. And it's really dangerous for those people because they will compromise their enjoyment of the game, because it's like, I should be doing better. I'm not. I'm suck. What's going on? So, yeah, I think for you, it's like we would love to kind of get you into solo queue ranked, at least for a few games a day, if possible. I think even like 1 or 2 games a day of solo queue ranked on tank would be awesome for practice. But that's kind of might be something you have to kind of like work towards. And again, the idea with that is not necessarily because we need you to rank up. It's just because I think you'll have more fun competing and practicing. It's like the difference of like having a pickup basketball game where there's like a 65-year-old dude that hasn't played basketball in 40 years. And then there's like the two 12-year-olds that think that they're, LeBron James. And, it's like really kind of, it's still basketball, but it's like kind of messy, right? Versus like,
totally.
right, like versus 9 other guys your age that are like, they're not that good, but they are pretty, they do get seriously, and they're out there to try and win. And you don't really care about winning, but it's probably going to be a more engaging experience playing with people of similar skill level than you, and they're trying. Now you might have to mute team voice. Too bad you can't do that IRL, you know. But it's not because you'll get better practice when you play. It's just more fun when you're competing at that level. But obviously, if that level of pressure, or you put more expectations on yourself and then you steal the fun, then maybe you need to go back and play with Gramps and the 12-year-olds again. But ultimately, that's your problem, and you need to work through that to work, because you're missing out on a much more enjoyable experience. And again, I've been there. Sure. So I feel like I have. Go ahead.
I was saying that makes sense.
Yeah. Okay. I feel like it could be better than silver. Yeah, I agree with that. I think with the amount of time that you're playing right now and like your hero pool, I think that like silver is, I think if we were to get you to get a couple of games in per day and maybe some quick play afterwards, I think gold is very reasonable for what you're aiming for in terms of just raw play time. I feel like some talent, some obvious weaknesses. I'm very bad at knowing team compositions. You don't need to worry about that as much. Don't have to worry about that as much. We'll talk about it briefly, but it's not as important. Could be better at positioning. Okay, what about your position do you think could be better?
I think it's like I get on autopilot sometimes. I think it's probably fairly similar with a lot of people who play games like this, but I have ADHD, and so like I'll get hyper focused on something, or like just my mind will drift, and so like there'll be times like I'll go thinking I'm making the right play, trying to dive support that's on their own, and then I didn't notice, I'm getting hacked from behind, and I can't fly away.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, ah, crap.
Yeah.
And I'd get hacked, things like that. Or like Ryan, especially like, I'll go full Chad, like charge. I try really hard not to charge into the back line. I try to charge really smart. Like, but like, I'll try to take on 3 people sometimes because I feel like I'm invincible, and then just realize in hindsight, like that was really dumb.
Yeah. The best way to look at it is Overwatch demands to play at a high level. It demands an ability to multitask, right? And multitask to the extreme. Positional awareness, HP awareness, cooldown awareness, crosshair placement awareness, your teammates awareness, enemy teammates awareness, ultimate awareness, right? It's everything, right? Like even map awareness, like where am I on the map? Not clonking in the walls. And the problem is that we go into the game without those skills, right? Like it's like the equivalent of like watching like somebody like the analogy I always use is somebody juggling while unicycling and playing the kazoo, right? Nobody's born with that skill. Nobody's born with that talent, right? You have to train yourself that talent. The question is how do you do it? Well, you have to be okay with just learning the kazoo and not unicycling. You have to be okay with just unicycling and not learning the kazoo. You kind of get what I'm going with this? So you're describing like a tendency of you to tunnel, and that is actually a very powerful weapon if you can channel it, because the tunneling is exactly what gives you that intensity at that specific task, and we need that. Like if you're working on your bubble management or your boosters or your micro missiles or your mechanics, you need to focus on those things so that they become a more automated task for you. Like think about how many things that you do automatically now that you didn't do in the first couple of months of your gameplay, right? Things that you take for granted now, but that just came with hundreds of hours of practice, right? And what we need to do is we need to keep riding that autopilot wave. We need to keep riding that tunnel vision wave. The thing is you just need to cut yourself slack when you're not focusing on other things and making other mistakes. That's normal. That's okay. We want that. But also we need to make sure that we're actually channeling that tunnel vision in the right direction with a purpose, with a constructive purpose, so that we can work on the kazooing and then the unicycling and then the juggling. And then we start to kind of try to put it all together. But you really do have to build it a little bit piece by piece. Nobody gets better at multitasking without being able to do things automatically. And really, no matter how intelligent you are, you don't really have the capability to multitask with your focus. When you're multitasking, what you're doing is you're doing two or three things, one or two things, just without thinking. It's just kind of going through the motions. And then you're doing one thing with a deliberate focus. Like, for example, when you're walking and talking, you're probably thinking about what you're saying, but you're not thinking about your legs moving. And that's very easy for you. But for a 3 or 4 year old or 2 or 3 year old, that's probably quite difficult because walking is not as easy for them, right? So
Yeah.
you have to find you could develop your skills to a really high level on autopilot, like a perfect level almost on autopilot, right? But that takes a lot of practice.
Mm-hmm.
That takes a lot of practice.
Yeah.
So
I feel like it does get like I identify like 5 or 6 different things that I need to
Yes.
improve and try to do it all at
Yes.
once. So I
And
can
that's
see
it.
that can get really overwhelming.
yeah, it's very overwhelming. It's discouraging, and it's just not as efficient or constructive as well. And I think the other thing too is it's like when you see a high level player doing all these things, you're like, man, I should be able to do that. I'm just not focused enough. It's just garbage. It's not true at all. It's not true at all. Like those people are not. A lot of times, I actually find lower ranked players put a lot more thought than higher ranked players do. But because those thoughts are not constructive and generally pretty scattered, that they can be a lot more judgmental on themselves and they don't progress as much as they'd like to. Whereas high ranked players, they're not thinking that much. Those things just happen automatically. Right? We can go back in hindsight and be like, this is why you did that. But I can guarantee that like for 90% of the whys, there wasn't like any conscious thought. It was just kind of like an instinct. But you're not born with instincts. You have to train them, right?
Yeah.
At least within Overwatch. So
Yeah.
depending on the hero, I can have issues securing kills. I can also get too aggro, put myself in bad positions. I mean, you're silver, right? There's got to be a million things that are not great, right? You're just below average. You're not a bad player, but you're just below average, and so that's pretty much it. Okay. Last thing I will say is 6 hours of sleep. Not sure what your health situation is like. It's not great. It's not terrible, but it's not great either. And that may be a small contributing factor to some of your inconsistency. But, small improvements there go a long way. But
Yeah. I just actually in the last 3 weeks have made a lot of changes to that and
excellent.
making some
Excellent.
good progress. So
Good. Yeah, I mean, even
feeling
like
good about that.
the nice thing about sleep is it doesn't have to be 8 either. I think a lot of people are like, I have to get 8 or 9. No, you just 6.5 times a week. That's a lot of extra rest. That's 3.5 hours of rest right there. So, okay. I don't really have any other questions. Do you have any other questions for me?
No, I just want the one you brought up awareness too. I'd say I didn't mention it, but I think that reminded me that like teammate awareness is something that I notice about myself. I'm bad about is like there's a lot of situations where I'll see, 4 people behind me, and I'll be like, all right, going in, and then I turn around and 3 of them are dead, and no one's there, and I'm like, what the hell just happened? And I get, and so I notice that also happens a lot to me too.
So that would be more described as like enemy awareness, like where are enemies?
Okay.
Teammate. So like when people talk about awareness, again, that's like saying, yeah, I'm really out of shape. Well, what does that mean? Like, are you overweight? Are you slow? Are you weak? Do you have bad cardio? Like, is it anaerobic, aerobic? Like, how you lack flexibility. So when you say that, you're describing a very specific type of awareness where you don't know where enemies are, so that may hurt or distract you from making good decisions about what you're doing. But then there's also like your cooldown's awareness or their cooldown's awareness or the ultimate's awareness. So I think just being specific about that can help you to practice those skills. And those can definitely be things that we talk about. So what we'll do is when we look at your gameplay, we'll be specific about what skills you need to work on. We won't go, you need to work on your awareness because, okay, what do I do with that information? Right? We'll give you something specific. Okay. What one do you want to start with here? We got 2 codes.
I think the Rialto one might be a little bit more helpful. I think that was the second one that I sent you.
Got it. Q5.
The one that said it was like a little bit closer.
Mm.
Sort of an even match.
Sure. And you are...
I'm the Ryan.
Ryan Gosling, yeah. Okay, Ryan Gosling. That is offensive. That is hilarious. That is wild.
I know.
That is hilarious. Okay,
Yeah,
Ryan.
You'll notice too, I've noticed, I don't know if this is just in my head, but like,
Yeah.
with my name, people seem to like it, but then the rollout of the other team seems to be all Ryan counters, which is
Yeah,
kind of
it
funny.
happens. It happens. It happens.
Yeah, but
Okay.
whatever.
Ryan, simply put, is okay, this is going to be a bit weird way to describe it. Bear with me. He is the brawl dive tank hybrid. You look at a character like JQ, Ramatra, Orisa, I guess Malga kind of falls in this category too, but you have a character who's really strong in that tight circle around them, right? You have a big hammer, big shield, lots of armor, shatter, so on. But what makes Ryan unique compared to a character like JQ, Ramatra, Orisa, and so on is that you have Pin. And a lot of people look at Pin as an offensive cooldown, and it is. It's very good, and you can pin tanks, and it's great. And you can pin backline. But the other thing that Charge allows you to do is to move around. You can hold positions that other brawlier tanks can't hold. You could reach targets, you could reach high grounds, you could disengage, and there's a lot of things that you could do. And so Ram is a great example where Ram, frankly, is just better than you. And the brawl a lot of the time. Not always, but a lot of the time it can feel that way, right? You have Pin on him. Shatter is really good versus him. You can shield off the damage from his backline. He doesn't do that quite as consistently, but he does have block, right? He's more vulnerable to CC than you are. But the key thing between you and Ram is that, like, if you don't like the Ram and you're like, oh, I want to go over there, you can. And Ram is just super slow. So with Ryan, the big priority for you is find a corner and ask yourself, what corner can I be to threaten the enemy team? Is it, do I want to play the corner and take the tank trade? Great. Do I want to take a corner up top here, threaten the backline? Okay. If I want to take the corner here, great. Do I want to pin on the flanker here? Take this corner here. That's fine. The key thing is just to move from corner to corner and being flexible with where you want to move to. And then being disciplined with how you do it. Because you can have the theory, welcome to my world, but you may not have the mechanics. And that's because you just need reps. And the mechanics being accuracy with fire strikes, accuracy with pins, shield management, cover management, blocking CDs, ultimates, all that stuff. Even aiming your swings, right? Like there's a lot of little techs that you can do. So, okay, let's take a look here. So I like where we're at right here with where our team is positioned. This is absolutely a really great corner to take. You absolutely can win, quote unquote, the tank trade from this position because you can absorb the Ramatra from cover, no problem. Sure. He is close, so we keep swinging. And what I'm going to do in our reviews is, if you have any questions, I want you to just let me know.
Okay.
But if I have nothing to say, I'm just going to keep rolling.
Cool. Yeah, I will say too that I tend to start slower and have a lot more trouble in the beginning.
Sure.
Like I feel like I was a lot sloppier first point, and then I kind of got it together second point.
Okay.
And so I could use some consistency on that too.
Sure. I could tell right now that I'm really pleased with your fire strike accuracy. It's a difficult projectile. It is a little slow, but you're really focused on placing them properly. And I'm going to encourage you to keep doing that. I imagine there's going to be a couple lazy ones soon as these things start to evolve. But I want to say that this is super, super important, not just for ult charge, but for pressure. Like it hurts people. It discourages them from pushing forward. It may or may not secure kills, but it is going to put the enemy team on the back foot. And that's a huge thing for you and your team's safety. So I'm really pleased with what we're doing with our fire strikes here. And I'm also pleased with how good you are with cover usage right now. Like there's nothing to reach here. So why do anything, right? Just play the corner. Don't take damage. Yeah. And like these little things right here are really, really good. Like you can't swing. Like I say that as we start to walk forward here, but at least you're still using cart. Now, this is where things get really interesting because you got a real question to decide here. I don't like this pin. I liked it earlier, but I don't like this one. I'm going to zoom out. We're going to look at this here. And then I'm going to go back to when you pinned earlier. And I want you to tell me the difference between the pin then and the pin after. You see this pin? What's the difference between this pin and the other one?
So this one, like I actually was trying to bait him on purpose because he seemed like he was going a little bit aggro without his team. And so I knew if I pushed him into the back line, it would be like 3 or 4 on 1.
This is the second one here.
So this is the second one?
Mm-hmm. This is the bad one.
And yeah, well, I had the same thought process,
Right.
but I think I just wasn't as aware of where I was like when I saw it. I was like, oh, I get to do this trick again. Cool. But then
Right.
we ended up killing a couple people on my team, and then they pushed card a little
Well,
further than I
well,
wanted. And
well,
we
you
kind
said
of,
something really insightful a few seconds ago. You said, I wanted to bait him because he had pushed up without his team. And you're right. Because when you secured this kill on Ram, you're holding this corner here. And this is what you're seeing. And there just isn't anything to push because there's really nobody engaged. So this is a mistake. And this is a mistake that you can punish and get away with. But see, if we skip forward, this exact same quote-unquote mistake that he's making is actually not a mistake because the question, is he pushing without his team? And the answer is no, he's not. He is pushing with his team because look at where his team is. Do you see the Bastion?
yeah.
Do you see the Juno
sense.
even? Right? Like they are in a position to where they are accessible. And crucially with Reinhardt, we talked about like, do you want to take the tank trade? Do you want to take the backline trade? The answer is you could do pretty well on both. And by trade, I don't necessarily mean get the kill, just control them, like prevent the follow-up, prevent them, threaten the kill, maybe get the kill. But actually here, the Ram is not only a choice you have to make, it's actually a bad choice because who's closer to punish here? Who's easier to punish here?
The back line.
The back line, right? The Bastion's half the distance and half the HP. So kill the back line.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
This is your responsibility. Like, I know you're thinking, oh no, Ram's going to kill my backline. You may or may not be able to assist with that. But you know what I'm really concerned about? I'm really concerned about these guys shooting for free off of their tank making space. And so what's happening here is even if you do punish the Ram, you have given all that space to this backline and also taken damage while you were doing so.
Yeah.
So the rule with Ryan is play the corner, control, damage, threaten what's convenient from that corner. Don't go don't go chase.
Kind of like a this is kind of like a mental thing because especially I don't know if it's just a rank thing or whatever, but it's just like I would prefer to fight the back line, and a lot of times I try to do that, or when it makes sense, but then it's like I get yelled at all the time.
Yeah, because everyone wants the knight in shining armor.
They're killing us.
Yeah,
it's like, tank. What are you doing?
Everyone wants the knight in shining armor, right? Everyone wants the knight in shining armor. But the problem is I'm not saying that you shouldn't go. You shouldn't peel their tank because it's bad to protect your team. What I'm saying is that there is a misunderstanding of who may or may not be threatening here, right? Yep. The tank is a threat, but so is the Bastion. And I cannot tell you how many times, in fact, a session I had just yesterday where somebody was so intentional about protecting their backline from a Winston diving, they let their backline die to Ana, Hanzo, Junkrat over and over and over again. If you're there, you have to protect your team from the follow-up, and you prefer the follow-up because it's what you were closer to. Now, this is where things get tricky. Let's say the scenario has changed. Let's say this Bastion, Mercy, Juno do something really crazy, and they're all the way over here, and they're on the flank, and they're up here. Do you go back and deal with the back line, or do you just control the front line?
I would tend to... That's a hard one with Reinhardt for me, is like, if they're in that window kind of over by the Mega behind me, then I would probably charge and deal with them.
And you'd be wrong.
If they take the high ground.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, maybe they're both wrong, but I would.
It's more attractive when they're accessible. Yeah. Yeah. I see what you're saying. Yeah. But my point being is it's a much trickier question because remember the reason why we're saying control the Bastion, at least before, was just because he was convenient. It's a question of convenience. So if Ramatra is here and there's a backline or a Tracer or a Kiriko or a Bastion on the high ground, it's just not convenient to go there. You can't really, and so when it's not convenient, your impact is minimal. That's the rule. Your impact is minimal. So instead, you might just control the Ramatra and then, swing in the Ramatra and, oh no, if I get really low, maybe I have to pin away from the Ramatra. That's fine, but like make sure that he doesn't take space here. So with Ryan, it's just a question of like, what can I control? Don't worry too much about whether that's tank or supports or DPS. It's just find your corner and put out pressure. Bait attention. And if the Winston dives your backline, if their backline's right there, do not pin to that Winston, right? You need to keep this backline. Now, if the backline's in Narnia, then yeah, go deal to Winston because you can't get to them.
That makes sense.
It's just a question of convenience, right? So what you're doing right now is fine, right? Why? Because everybody here is really easy to deal with. So it feels scary right now, but you are doing your job. You're saying, hey, look at me, watch out, stay back, get out. I thought you shielded that, but you got scammed.
I thought I did too, honestly.
Yeah. But see, this I'm like, I think like, ignoring a couple of little micro details here, like, okay, like we needed that charge to hit. Maybe we don't use that charge there, right? And then obviously, okay, I'm not gonna even blame that one. You did shield that. You got scammed. Again, nice fire strikes. This is good. This is tanking. This is being like, hey, you got to come through me. I don't care if it's Bastion, Sombra, Ryan, whatever is here. I'm going to deal with it. I'm going to manage my HP. I'm going to hit my fire strikes. I'm going to play my corner. I'm going to use my shield. You're tanking. You're tanking right now. And then now you have a really important decision to make. Should you pin this ram or should you control backline? Think about what you've learned so far. Convenience is the answer, right?
Yeah. Then with that in mind, I think I make the right play, but then screw it up. But I have a question before we get to that. Is your example you were talking about, like if they're in that area over by the mega or up on the high ground? That's something I get confused about. Is like if I'm working that corner where I was, and there's like an Ashe or something up on the high ground in the window behind me, just shooting me in the back. Especially as Ryan, because I don't have shields. Like I don't know necessarily like how to.
Yeah, understandable. When you're getting poked on an angle, find a different corner is the rule. Find a different corner. So if you're getting poked out from here, you might need to back off and hold your shield this way, right? You are very vulnerable to that. If it is an angle you can push out like this here, then go for it 100%. But if it is an angle you can't force out, you need to find a different corner. You need to find a different corner. And don't be scared to just sit there and hold shield. Because if that Ashe is just poking, you're holding your 1600 shield, that's a lot of time and resources wasted on you. Like, you're really good. The analogy I always like to use is imagine if D.Va had a 6-second matrix. That's Reinhardt. You just sit there and you just don't take damage. It's a tricky situation. Cool. But going back to this situation here, this is good. Why? Because, Bastion was kind of close, but he was on the other side of card. He didn't have turret. And this ram was right next to you, so yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I cannot blame this at all. This was brilliant. Like, this was like, we're talking about a centimeter of being like a beautiful play from you. Yeah, this is no shame at all.
That's so frustrating.
This is stupid. This is really dumb, right? Now this is
definitely, I got annoyed that I've
right. So you're right. So you're gonna double down, and you're down 2 supports. And I think is this a kill feed awareness? Is this just tilt? I don't know, but this is really stupid. But you should feel great about the actual pin here. Even though you failed, it was actually still a good play. Like you pushed him out of position, and you could shield that ult off and just get healing from your team, and it's actually just totally wasted. I mean, it still creates a lot of space, but I don't know. It's a good play in my opinion. Like even that, like you had the right intentions, waiting them in, push him out. Go ahead.
I actually didn't know that you could shield off his ult.
You can. Yeah,
I thought it went around the shield.
No, it actually has to do damage to a target to sustain, otherwise it runs out.
Oh, that's awesome.
So if you shield the ult, it will expire pretty quickly unless it's doing damage to somebody else, which may be where some of your confusion comes from. But if, for example, if you're here and you shield it off, it's not sucking anybody else, it will expire in about 2 seconds.
Oh, okay.
It's a big deal. It's a really big deal. It's where
I
Ryan
usually run away from it.
You could pitting it's fine like you did if you can get it, but the shielding of it is really, really good. Ryan is like Ram is definitely going to be a tough matchup for you, but there's lots of things that Ram doesn't have an answer for. He doesn't have an answer for your shield. He doesn't really have an answer for pin. He doesn't really have a consistent answer for shatter even as well. So it's like it's not as much of a counter. It's just a little bit more tricky. It's like, let's put it this way. It is less of a counter the better you get at Ryan. But it is challenging earlier on. Okay? You change your corner, you find your corner up here, and you make a play. That's all there is. Good. These fire strikes are like actually insane. Like this is keep leaning into this. Really putting emphasis on this.
Something I'm proud of.
Yes, it's fight winning stuff right here. Like even that fire strike right there. It's not. You can't always land them, but you just. I mean, look at that. That almost hit 2 people, right? You'll never hit every fire strike, but yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what do you think about this? This is an interesting one. Who should you push here? It's tricky, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I think I didn't expect him to go down. Honestly, I thought he was going to just keep going upstairs, and I thought maybe I can get him in like a bad place where he couldn't get healed.
Yeah.
Yeah, when he jumped down, I was like, oh wait.
Well, the question was there anybody else extremely convenient from this position?
Not really.
Not really, so sure. If there'd been a Hanzo here, I would have been losing my mind. Why are you chasing the Ram when there's a Hanzo? You need to be pushing up, right? But there wasn't really anybody there. It was like a Juno all the way over here. And she's hard to push, and she was far away, so yeah. I will also say as well, remember your corners are flexible. Like, I know you're like fall back, but like,
Yeah.
This guy's by himself, right? So if I'm your Moira, I'm like, yo, Ryan.
Yeah.
It happens.
I just saw the Moira was kind of low fighting the turret. And
That's
like,
fine.
Let's
That's fine.
regroup a little
That's
bit,
fine.
but
That's fine. I think here as well, you can also
I thought
reposition.
there were more people than there were.
Yeah, understandable. I think you could also reposition to high ground too here, just because you can always drop to corner here, but like in the meantime, you can be like, hey, let's see what's going on. Get a little bit of scouting, but you need to back off here. And you do. Sure. Good. I know you're like, that they did nothing, but it's Juno ult, and so it's gonna hit the Ram.
Yeah.
And then you're gonna force EMP, and you're gonna die. So I think the key thing for you here is I don't hate the shatter. I think it's fine. Mm-hmm. It needed to not be in the support ult. That's pretty much it.
Okay.
And then in addition here, once you see this is where like just know your matchups. He's not gonna die. Because if he's gonna start to die, he's gonna block. Okay. And if you don't have pin, you can't do anything versus the block, right? So you've already put him on the back foot, and you see where you die, where you were, and then where you die.
Yeah.
You needed to stay here. You've already done your job. You forced block, you forced a support ult, you forced not one ultimate, but 2 ultimates. So they've just now used 3 ultimates versus your shatter. Just hold the corner. Hold the corner. Yeah. You push past corners.
Time.
Yeah. It just, you get bloodlust, but it's a bad recognition of the situation.
Totally.
It's a bad
I was
recognition.
like, I should have killed someone.
Right.
And then I just kind of get
right. And everyone's always like, I should have killed somebody, but it's like they pop 3 ultimates. Right? Like it's 3 versus 1. Like it happens, So again, convenience, right? He's there, so you kill him. It's fine. I think like target priority is just not a huge thing. Like you want to go for supports or squishies if you can, but squishies sometimes are inaccessible, so sometimes you just shoot tank. But if you see an opportunity to go for backline, you need to go for backline. And if the tank runs away from you, like a Wrecking Ball or a Winston, generally it's not a good play to chase them. Again, here, just take the high ground. This is still a corner. This is still a corner. You might not want to fight over here with your team over here, but you can still look. It still gives you choices. Like let's say there's a squishy that comes up here. Oh, great. Right, now you're denying them from going to that position. So,
yeah. Okay. Well, I was nervous. That's why I stopped too, because I was typing in my team because they were close to capping, and they have a Sombra. So I was just nervous about.
Yep. You see, this is so good. This is so good. You don't have to drop on them, right? But if you see an opportunity, it's there. You might as well. Right? You might as well go here just because this is still a corner. These fire strikes are so good, so good. Keep these up.
Thanks.
So good. And then now. What's the proper decision here?
Go back to point.
Why?
Because first they're close.
Pull out your ruler.
Yeah.
Who's closer? Who's closer?
Like anytime I can charge into my back line, I think is usually a good move. Too.
Now, if Juno was like here, I think I would go for Juno instead. Like make sure that there's no follow up to this here. But Juno's like way over here, so then it's really a simple decision. It really is just they're there. Yeah, that's it. But you see actually what you did here? Look at what you did because you took a good position here. Look at this Juno. So she's like, oh crap. Do you see that? You've just isolated them. And now they're out of the fight. And then now you go back because they're too far to access. And this fight's won. You see that?
Yeah.
It's good. It's from a good corner, threatening the backline. And then when the backline is just so far away, can't do anything. Okay, now I'll kill your tank. I'm going to say it again. The fire strikes are just great. They're
Yeah,
really great.
appreciate it.
Can you you could two-shot a Juno, right? I think it's the 225 HP, I believe.
I think so.
Bastion's close, so hold your corner. Same thing here. Would love for you to be up top. If you shield this ult's over because the ice block blocks it as well.
Knowing.
Yeah. But watch this. So it's expiring. Yeah. Right there it goes. There's ice block. You see the meter start to go for just a brief second, a little bit faster until it hits you. If you shield this ult's over.
Yeah. This is what I typically do. Is like I'll run away.
Yeah. Oh.
It's just me not knowing. I know.
That's okay.
That would've been good.
Now let's look at target priority here. Let's look at target priority here. Remember, it's all about proximity. Sure. Yes. Now what?
I didn't know. Well, so I didn't know where the Somber went, and I don't think I saw the Mercy.
Yep.
And so I just was like, who do I have a straight line at?
Yep. So this is where I want you to do something. I want you to wait half a second and look.
Yeah.
Find your corner, first off. So that might be here. That might be here. It might be I'm going to pin in and play the corner here, right? It sounds silly to be like that meticulous, but it's important. And solve the positioning.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah,
Big
sometimes
traps.
get in the trap of like, speaking of basketball, like when I used to play basketball, I'm a pretty big guy. And so like I could make plays like if we were stuck, I could just like put my head down and kind of like barrel into the basket and just like get 2 points.
Yep.
Just kind of mindlessly, and I just sometimes get in that mode with like Ryan where I'm just like, all right, something didn't work. All right, I'm just gonna go somewhere and cause chaos and hopefully it works out. But I don't think that's the smartest.
No, it's not, because you need to slow things down a little bit. I know it's like, I'm gonna miss opportunities if I slow things down. Yep. But it's more important to actually start to speed up that recognition by forcing yourself to reevaluate. You're not going to get faster by just like, it's like saying that like, I'm going to learn how to play guitar by forcing myself to play Eruption by Van Halen at full speed, right? Like you're not going to be able to play it. You're going to have to slow it to 0.1% and then build speed from there. So like right now, it's like you need to right now take a chill pill, look around and go, okay, with the information I have, you're about to pin Ram. I think that is a massive mistake because who should be pressured right now? The Bastion, because he's just closer. Now, the Bastion is also more attractive because he's a squishy, but he's also closer. So if you pin Ram here, that's a massive mistake. And that's because you're speeding things up unnecessarily.
Yeah.
That's why corners are so good, because corners allow you to take that pause and to take it safely.
Yeah. I just get scared of the Bastion turret, so I wasn't necessarily trying to pin Ram. I was just trying to get to a corner.
Sure.
Where I could either wait out the turret or swing at the...
But obviously
more safely.
In hindsight here, you could swing very safely here. You could pin it from this angle here. Bam, you could fire strike this. Like you're here. Deal with this threat. Shield off this threat even. Even if the decision is literally to just stand there and shield. That's a good decision sometimes. Like this is the decision that you're making right now, but it was kind of thrust upon you because you made a mistake with your pen.
Yeah, exactly. I think I missed my charge.
And this is where this is where like obviously like now that you know these things, but this is a huge error right here. You see it?
Yeah.
This is the I have to protect my teammates. No, this is the scary threat right here. This is what kills your team right now. This is easier for you to deal with. It's faster and it's also more threatening and it's also more convenient. And you're giving it up to go deal with the Ram. You can't even deal with a Ram. Now it's funny because you actually realize it. Go, oh, Bastion ult, but with or without ultimate, that was your responsibility.
Yeah.
Okay, so before we get into the diva, let's take some notes here. Yeah. What are some things that you need to practice?
So, like target priority in the sense of convenience instead of like just always going for squishies.
So what I'm going to do for you is I'm going to be step 1, find corner cover. Step 2, control space by target priority of convenience. Don't over focus tank. And then step 3, you ready for this one? Take moments to hold a corner, chill, and evaluate strategy.
Yeah.
Slow the chaos down.
Fair.
Excellent work with Fire Strikes. Excellent work with Shatters, for the most part, ignoring the first one. Just shattering what's available. I think a lot of people they want the fat shatter, it's like just one person's fine. Just like one person guaranteed kill to over, or even just to force like 2 ultimates, totally worth it. Just use it. Tank, DPS, support, it really doesn't matter. The only exception would be stuff like Life Grip, right? I think is the big one. Even Suzu sometimes is like harder to get execute on a shatter than people think, right? But like Life Grip's really the only one. I think that's mostly it in terms of the good stuff and the bad stuff. This is what I work on. This is what I would work on.
Thanks.
I would also take a moment to evaluate like the quality of your games as well, because I would look at this and I would guess mid gold in terms of play. So the matchmaker is good. It's very good at what it does. So where are you at right now in terms of rank?
I made it last season to gold 5, and then I'm currently back at silver 2.
Okay, so silver 2. So this is where a moment of honesty. If this is how you play Ryan this game, I don't think you play Ryan this well in most of your games. So the question for you needs to be why, when I don't play with this level of like, and not that you played perfectly here, but when I don't play with this level of intention or focus or whatever, why? What goes wrong? And not in terms of necessarily the environment, but with you, like what goes wrong with you? Would this game have gone differently if after this fight right here, if your team had not managed to regroup and like, I honestly, I think your team played pretty well. Like right now, this is the moment of truth here. What happens if you don't hit this pin right here?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
That is an issue with me.
So like when things, and like right there, huge fire strike, huge rocket from your Pharah. What happens if you guys aren't able to kind of stabilize here and pull this out? Would you have gotten frustrated? Would you have continued to play worse? Would you have started to make worse decisions and get upset at yourself? It's worth thinking about, right? Because like, again, this is where we talk about that inconsistency, right? You played well, but you played well maybe because you started to build confidence of some good plays.
Yeah. I mean, even if you want to skip the diva and look at the other one, if we have time.
Sure, we can look at it. It's up to you.
That
but yeah,
actually happens in the other match. Is like we literally, it's a push map where we roll the team like almost to the finish line, and then something starts to crumble, and they almost come back to win.
Right.
It's like I don't even necessarily know what happened.
Let's take a look.
Okay. I will say too, I'm a little embarrassed after I submitted this because I did do one really nice play and then I did like an emote and I'm like, oh crap.
Look. Listen, those moments are why we play this game. So yeah. I ain't even gonna hate. So good for you. Yeah. Again, these fire strikes are you're just like a laser. It's great. By far your greatest strength. I mean, it's so important. So this is where we get to like what makes Reinhardt a lot of fun. Because you look at this and you're like, what do I do? Because look at this. It's like it's like the meme with like 3 different rows here. Like where do you go? What do you think?
Well,
you need a corner. You need a corner, right? So you don't really have that right now exactly. So where's your corner?
So I watched one of your Ryan videos recently, and in the last week or so, or 2 weeks, I feel like I've gotten a little better at identifying who's the biggest threat to the team.
Sure.
And so I ended up going back to try to get to the Cass.
Love it.
Cass.
Love it. You know why? Because again, in terms of convenience, they're all convenient. I don't like Sigma because if I have to choose between 3, I'm generally going to choose the more squishy character because I can threaten them more. And I also love the Cass as well because when you go for the Cass, remember we talked about the Ashe example earlier, getting shot in the back? If you control this Hanzo, there is a world where you could get shot in the back here, right? But if you go for the Cass, if you go on the angle, you're going to force him out so he's not a threat to your team. But also, you're not really going to get shot in the back because you're just going to be able to shield this way and that's it, right? There's nothing really going to be shooting in the back here. So I like this. Okay, let's push out this Cass. Okay, Cass is out. And the best part about this is a crazy play, but you're doing it from a corner. You're doing it from an angle. You're not running down the middle of the enemy team. Like, look at the red circle versus the blue circle. This is how you pin in Overwatch.
Yeah.
You know, it's coming from an angle. It's coming from the outside. You're going to a corner. So if this fails, you're going to be able to shield and walk out safely. And this is making space. Because even if you don't get the kill, this is forcing a response. And then now you just shield. Because look at the compression of the enemy team. Look at the setup that they had with the angles that they had. Look at the threat to your backline. Oh, it's terrifying, right? You dealt with one, and look at the blue circles compress. You see it?
Yeah, totally.
They're just not in good positions anymore. Okay.
Yeah, plus it's, my thinking is cutting off the healing.
Yeah. I wouldn't even overthink that.
My team could deal with it.
Yeah, I wouldn't even think that far, because you're right, but that's not why the play is good. It's you just took an angle and took a corner, and that was it. That's pretty much it. And now you're pinning Sigma. Why? Convenience.
Convenience. Yeah.
He's just in front of you, and this is where Ryan is really, really, really good. Like, Ryan is one of the best tanks when there are no angles and everything's just in front of you. You could just shield off everything, pin everything, shatter everything. Even if you had gone for Sigma there, it still would have been the play. You're just going with convenience. Corner, corner, corner. Now this, again, corner. Where do you need to be?
Yeah.
You got choices here, right?
Yeah. I think I ended up going toward the cart because I realized, I'm like, oh crap, I'm out. I feel like I'm not that. This is my weakest game mode because it's like the open space is hard for me and closing distances sometimes, and so I'll find myself in the spot like this where I'm like, oh no, I'm in trouble. And
so approach things from a two-step process. You want to close the distance, but you need to close distance from cover. You have options on left. You have options on right. You go here. You go here. You could go here. I don't care. Just don't stand here.
Yeah.
Because cards cover, but also if you go here, they're going to look at you. They're not going to look at your team.
Yeah.
They're going to hide. And then if you want to close the distance, everybody's going to be directly in front of you. So you just walk forward. Same thing here. Easy access to backline. Everyone's going to be looking at you. Like, you're pulling attention. The problem here is that the backline's still far away from you. And in addition, well, this is better, by the way. But like, if you're here, backline's still far away from you, and everyone's kind of just dumping damage in one direction. Now, who should you... I mean, there's not even a question about who we should be focusing, because again, everything's just in front of us. So we keep taking tank trades. We keep walking. Like, your Sojourn gets logged, but who cares? Like, this is fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. The only thing here is I think you're a little too passive here.
Interesting.
Just a little bit too passive. Just in terms of your distance, you got a Kitsune. Just go and swing. Go and swing. Close the distance. Okay. Let's go. You have the HP, right? You have the shield for it, right? So go for it.
Yeah. Okay.
Convenience. Shatter it. Yep. Nice. I mean, it's not a surprise that this has felt easy, because, again, everything is just kind of played in front of you. And so your shield, shatter, everything has gotten good. Nice little juke there. I saw the vision.
Yeah.
I even like this.
The point where I was like, oh, sorry. I was just saying, this felt just easy. It was just like, oh, we're going to win this.
Yeah. I even this is good, right?
And I don't know why.
Because look at who you pin, right? It's the closest squishy, right? You didn't pin Sigma. Yeah. You didn't pin even the Kiriko. This guy was closer. So even if you don't hit this pin, you're going to deal with this threat. And then now you have corner again. So, I mean, this is going to happen with push, because as you push further and forward, their spawns get closer. Their defender's advantage gets closer. You really should just die in card here. This is a huge mistake from you. That's a huge play, but I'm not going to lie with you. You're remarkably fortunate that worked at all. That could have been a death during shatter and a 15-second stagger.
Yeah.
So, hey, this is the emote. I'm ready. I'm all here for it.
Yeah.
That's right. Let them know. But hey, you know what? Suffered from some success, so we'll take it.
It was extremely lucky. I know I mean, it basically could have gone the same way that the Remacha one went the first.
It could have.
Very easily.
Again, tank trade. Why?
He's right there.
Right. You got a corner. You got a cover. If you had, like, let's say a DPS on an angle, maybe you could pin that. But even then, that DPS is way over here. You might just need to control this tank and choke. Trust your teammates to deal with it. Like, they're not always going to do what they need to do, but they're going to do it more often than not. Part of being good at solo queue ranked is to just do your job and trust that your teammates. These fire sticks are so good. Just to trust your teammates to do their job, because more often than not they will. And if you try to do their job for them, you will fail. You will be dead.
Yeah. That's the hard thing that I was mentioning before, is because it's less of like, it's not necessarily that I don't trust my teammates. It's more like I get flamed if I don't come back and babysit them sometimes.
Yep. I understand that.
Just like I'm like, all right, fine. I guess I'll just do that, even though I don't necessarily want to.
And then you lose games. Your teammates don't know what they don't know what they need. They're children. Not that in terms of like emotional children, but they don't understand the game. They don't understand your role. Your job is to do your job, and then that's it.
Yeah.
If everyone had their way, healers would never do anything but heal. They would never die, but also they would take risks, but then they would shield their team, but also they would shield the enemy backline. They'd kill the backline, but they'd protect their backline at the same time. DPSs wouldn't flank, but they would flank and kill the enemy backline, but only when I want them to. But then they'd focus the enemy tank. They'd counterstop the enemy tank, but they'd also counterstop the enemy back. There's just no pleasing people, right? Like, there's no way that you will play that will make people happy. So, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Good.
So this one starts going downhill.
Yeah, and, I mean, there's nothing here that I can find immediate fault with. The only thing I can say here is that you need to stop trying to get out. You need to commit getting out or die on cart. You're wasting objective, and you're staggering.
Okay.
You just need to die. Like this has been atrocious. Like this is like that is game losing mistake right there. It sounds dramatic, but like if you do that once or twice a game, you will lose games off of that. You die. It's okay to die, especially with the new wave respawns thing. It's totally fine to die. You're totally good. But this, like, you are contributing to the stagger problem your team has, and it's just going to keep getting worse.
I think I do that a lot, and I think that probably is the big thing that really...
Right. You either commit to the disengage, or you commit to dying card. Your choice.
Okay.
Like here, I don't love it, but at least you committed, right? You made a decision, so even if you guys lose this, at least the robot won't be moving, or the payload won't be being pushed, right? I'm just kind of cruising here because I don't see anything that we haven't already talked about earlier. And I think for the most part that we're not, besides the major staggering issue, this hasn't been too bad. Like you're controlling your HP, you're hitting your fire strikes, you're making decent target priority decisions. You need to go to the next corner.
The staggering thing is key because I think it's, now that you're identifying, that's kind of like what I'm talking about when I'm like, I'm the only one left alive, and I'm like, where'd my team go?
Yep, just die.
So I'm like, I'm trying to survive because I just think being alive is better, and then I think
you'll die.
Set off a chain reaction where I die anyway, and then we just are behind the eight ball. The rest of the game.
You got it. You got it.
Okay.
I like this, for example, right here. This fight's lost. So you need to die and maybe get a kill.
Okay.
It's not the end of the world, right? They've used Kitsune. They've used Blade. You've pushed the cart to pretty far forward here. But that was good.
Okay.
Wait. Okay, we're good. Let's go. Oh. Hey, you know what? You came from the outside. You're on a corner. Your team is here. Now, this is the moment of truth. Where do you need to be right now? Two choices.
Gone the right.
Yes. You need to get right here, and you need to live. You need to hold your shield or swing your hammer, or maybe, like, I guess you could play around push robot and get a little cover here, but you cannot stand here. You cannot stand here. You need to get on the corner and look at what happens when you go on the corner. The opportunities present themselves to you. You rotate into them, or they rotate away from you, and then they're the ones in the open. You need to find your corner. You need to find your corner.
Okay.
I like you going for the Junkrat here right now because he's what's convenient, but ironically, he's convenient because you did a bad rotation into the open.
Yeah.
I will say, I mean, that's good. Like, that's not a mystery that worked because you did take what was convenient, but this feels bad because of, really frankly, just not playing cover. That was your responsibility to do that. This is good. Okay. You need to just die in robot here. Or get out. Your choice. This is okay. This is okay. Just stay on the robot here. Don't back off. Don't back off. Okay. That's good.
Yeah.
I
think that's a good example.
Yeah, that one was better-ish. Because at least you didn't let the robot push too far forward. You kind of just died on it. That's okay.
Yeah, I need to be less scared of dying.
Mm-hmm.
When it makes
Good.
sense. When the fight's lost. I think
When
when
the
I
fight's lost.
identify when a fight's lost is an issue for me.
Yeah, the enemy team makes the same mistake. I actually don't hate this shatter here because this is what I like to call a stagger ult, where they could maybe get out here, like they're really trying to get out here. They might be able to get out here, but now you've made them make the same mistake that you made.
Yeah. Okay.
Because now you've just staggered them an additional 10 seconds. And if you catch this Juno, it's going to be even more. And honestly, staggering them an additional probably more than 10 seconds there is absolutely worth it for an ultimate a lot of time. Okay. Now you're down 1 here. Where's your corner?
Over by the trees or by the health pack.
You got it. Because you got choices. You could be here, or you could be here, where they have to kind of look away from your team to look at you. And if you get really in trouble, you just hold shield, and then maybe even pin out. It's like a little, we call it a Ryan angle, right? Right, you just kind of like make them turn their back on you. But yeah, the trees or that, 100%. That's the play. You've solved it. You've cracked the code. It's a little thing, but it adds up.
Yeah, I just need to be able for it to come to mind when I'm in the middle of the battle.
You need to practice juggling.
Hard.
You need to practice juggling and let the unicycle go.
Totally.
Yeah. Good target priority here. Again, she's closer, so you go for her, and then now Sigma, so we go for Sigma. This is a pretty good Rhine map just because, yes, there's a little bit of verticality, but it is linear, right? Now, this is hilarious irony because while going for Sigma, Genji presents himself. You don't see the Genji, so you're still locked into the tank. But because the Genji is actually so close, he dies to your fire strike accidentally. To be fair, he was kind of tricky to spot, but that's a funny one. And that's it. There you go. I was expecting a lot worse, frankly, from this. I think that this was a fairly reasonable performance from you. I think the key things is that you just tend to hover in the open, and you stagger yourself. You stagger yourself. Okay. But I'm telling you, if you're able to perform at this level with Reinhardt consistently, I think over time, if you're able to keep a healthy relationship with the game, I think this looks more like a mid-gold. Mid-gold. Mm-hmm. And the same strengths and weaknesses as we saw in the the Rialto VOD. Now, what would be interesting would be to see how some of your other tanks look. But I think for now, I will say some of the stuff we talked about, like finding corner cover, control space by target priority of convenience, take moments to hold a corner, chill, and evaluate strategy, slow the chaos down. That applies to everything, like every single tank that you play.
Okay.
Every single tank that you play. Even a Winston, like you want to go for backline, but if backline is inaccessible, you could take a tank trade on an angle on a corner. It's not great, but you can take a tank trade on an angle on corner. Cool. But yeah. All right. Any questions?
No, I think that was helpful. I think the staggering thing is kind of illuminating for me.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, a lot of it was super helpful, but I think that's something that I just like had the other things I had concepts of, I just didn't necessarily know how to execute on.
Yep.
I think that was maybe just like a completely new thing for me to think about.
Sure. You really, what makes great players great is not like their incredible wisdom or like knowledge or like brilliant mechanics necessarily. They play the game a lot more than you, which is where the mechanics come from. But they just do a lot of like the little things consistently well, right? Like just being better at controlling corners, like just being better at not staggering and just building those little habits, right? Having a little bit of a healthier relationship with competitive, maybe not playing Zarya, Roadhog, Sigma occasionally, right? Like they just do those little things better. That's really what you need to do. It's not a complicated path. It just takes a little bit more, I won't even say discipline, but a little bit more structure than where maybe you have right now.
Cool.
And if you could do that while still having fun with the game, great. Cool. There you go.